Hey, hello guys, and welcome back with another video. Unfortunately, throughout this video, the video recorded did not capture my voice, so I flew the entire time recording, thinking that my voice was going to come out in the video, and turns out it didn't. You, however, can hear my friend who is flying right there, as you can see, with me. He's going to be going up. That's Akula, the same one that I usually fly with. You're going to hear him responding to something I said in flight, but you won't actually hear me say it because, again, well, it didn't record my voice. So, anyways, um, we're doing a simultaneous takeoff in bad weather. We're going to keep our distance because of obvious reasons. Uh, the flight was supposed to be a training exercise. There is a little bit of combat, but mainly the main focus of this flight on the second half of the video will be navigation through IMC conditions or instrumental meteorological conditions, essentially bad weather. Yep. Visibility is less than 1,500 feet. And I believe, if I remember correctly, that ceiling is about 5,500 feet of altitude, something like that. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, ceiling refers to the altitude of the clouds. So as you can see right there, I looked at the light switch for the jet, and I was just verifying that mine was on. I did tell him to do that before we even took off. So we needed the lights in order to see each other better throughout the bad weather. So right there, master is set to the arm position, and we are going to continue to climb through Angels 30. And again, for those of you who don't know, Angels 30 refers to 30,000 feet.
Got it.
When we fly back to base, we will be using TACAN, Tactical Air Navigation, and ILS, Instrumental Landing System. So right now, you're going to see me finding the runway that we want to land at. That is 24 left, runway 24 left. So I'm going to draw a line in the direction that we're going to land, and you can see that the number is 246 for the heading. That 246 is the true heading of the runway, 246. However, when you try to land using the ILS system, you need to account for the magnetic declination, which in the Mariana Islands is +1 degree on average right now at this time in 2021. So when you plug the course into the ILS computer, you're going to have to make sure that you add +1 to 246 to make it 247, and that's going to be the magnetic heading at which you need to set the course to in order to make a successful ILS landing. Okay, Roger. Right now we're fencing in. I just dropped my fuel tank, and he did the same thing. We have, I believe it was 2 JF-17s that are pinging us originally from our left side. We turned left, and now they're in front of us. And they're, if I remember correctly, they're pretty far out. I believe they were like 80 to 75 miles out. So we're going to climb up a little bit further than 30,000 feet to get that little bit of extra altitude. And the current plan is for me to engage the flight lead, the one in the front, because I'm going to be closer to him. And Akula, he's going to be targeting the guy on the back, his buddy. We are going to pre-fire. We're going to be shooting the AMRAAMs from hopefully more than 30 miles out. And the reason for that, for those of you who don't know, is to force them to get into a defensive position. Essentially, we're trying to force them to maneuver. Since they're going to be maneuvering away from the missile, they won't be able to shoot us. The first missile that we fire is not meant to kill. It's meant to scare them. And the second missile that we fire is meant to kill.
Got it.
Anyways, right now we take tactical formation, meaning we're looking for 1 mile of at least 1 mile of separation between him and I. He's to my left, I'm to his right. At this point, we're maintaining situational awareness. And right here, you can see that I'm trying to acquire a lock. I set the radar scan for 10 degrees, 1 bar scan and 2 bar scan, and finally 2-bar scan worked and gave me the accurate reading on him. So there he is. You can see that he's locked up right there. So I Fox 3. That's an AM. I'm sorry. That's an AIM-120C missile. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn left. I'm going to let him know, hey, I'm turning left, crossing underneath you. Essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put the enemy on the gimbal limit of my radar. You can see on the HSD page that the enemy is on the right hand side gimbal limit of my radar. And the reason I'm doing that is in case he fires a missile, I can easily make a 45-degree turn to the left and crank the missile, which will give me the best chance of survival. So right there, I turned back into him and I fired another missile. As I was turning, when my nose was pointed at him, I let another missile go. And again, I put him on the left-hand side of my jet in the gimbal limit of the radar. So for those of you who don't know, the AIM-120C missile is a semi-active radar homing missile, which means that it uses passive radar and active radar. For the first half of the way, the missile's going to use the radar on your aircraft, which means you need to maintain a solid lock on the enemy. And after that, it switches to active radar, which means that the missile uses its own onboard radar. At that point, the enemy will know that the missile is coming, so he will start evading the missile. And you can fire, essentially you can forget that the missile is there because the missile will now track on its own. So one thing that happened here is that my friend Akula continuously was unable to acquire a lock on his guy, on his target. So I asked him if he needed assistance, and I went for the enemy. By now, I fired, I believe, 3 of my missiles into my target. I was pretty certain that my target was going to die. Now, typically, that's a pretty bad assumption to make. You wouldn't make that assumption in a real scenario. But I did it anyway because it's a training server, so I didn't care. So right there, you can see that I fired my my 4th radar guided missile at my target, and I believe right now I got the kill on the first guy. My friend, I'm sorry, I keep saying my friend, Akula confirmed that I got the kill.
He's engaging the KC-130
on the first guy that I was shooting. I will not kill this one. My missile ends up missing, or not missing, but he evades my missile with countermeasures. My friend, or again I said my friend, Akula ends up getting that kill. I'm gonna let it play now.
And Fox 3. Missile's tracking, this should hit him. He's not gonna evade that. Got him, he's down. Bad news is I lost all my Fox 3 missiles.
So right about now, you guys are gonna see me and him configuring the TACAN and ILS systems on the jet so that we can navigate back to the airfield. So essentially, it is impossible for us to know exactly where to go by using visual rules because we can't see anything below the cloud layer. So right there, I'm just verifying the true heading of the runway. And then we're going to proceed to set up the TACAN and ILS system. So right there, I'm explaining something in the simulator. I don't know what it was. My voice wasn't recorded, unfortunately. But so right now, I deactivated the autopilot and I told him, hey, take the lead and I'll give you the information to set up the TACAN information. And the ILS, and he did it, and now it's my turn. So let me just wait for me to start touching stuff in the cockpit, and then I'll explain to you guys what I'm doing as I'm doing it in the simulator. It's gonna come up now, just any minute.
Two, 4, 7. Enter. Got it. All right. Got it. Yep.
So right now, first step is make sure that you're in the home page, so return, and then press the number 1 TILS or TACAN ILS. First thing you need to do is a TACAN, change it from receive to transmit and receive, TNR. Then you set the channel for the TACAN. For the Anderson Air Force Base, it's channel 54 on the band X-ray. It was already set for X-ray, so I left it how it is. Now the ILS. You need the ILS for the runway heading, and that is 110.15. And then the course, which was 246, but again, you got to make sure that you account for the magnetic declination, so you have to add +1 to that. So 247 for this particular map. The next step is to look down at your compass and press the button that looks like an M. Essentially what that button does is it switches to an TACAN navigation, and it also allows you to switch to the ILS navigation. So you will see that in a second. So right there, I already put it to TACAN, and now you need to rotate the wheel, and you need to make sure that you set the course in the compass to 247, just like you did on the ILS computer up above on the DED. There you go, 247. So now there's a new bit of information there. The arrow points to the runway. But before we do that, we need to align ourselves. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly towards the line. That line I'm putting the mouse over right now. Not the one in the center, but the one, the blue line above. I'm going to fly towards the blue line above, and the reason I'm going to do that is to line up with the airfield, and I will momentarily explain that to you in just a second here.
Got it.
So I believe I'm about to pull up. Yep, there we go. So this is the map. So we're taking this flight path. We're around there. We're flying down to somewhere around here, and then once we get here, we're going to turn right and fly directly into the runway perfectly lined up. That's the reason we're flying towards the big blue line, because the big blue line is essentially the intersection line, so that we can line up with the runway perfectly. I want to maintain around 50 plus nautical miles away from the base. I do not want to be close to the base at all, because I need time for us to fly back essentially. So right now I'm setting QFE to 2936. If you roll back the video a couple seconds, you're gonna see that I changed the QFE altimeter the altimeter, and I set it to 2936. That is the QFE for the Anderson Air Force Base at this particular time that the mission is set to. So we're already reaching the blue line, as you can see on the compass. So I'm starting to make the right turn, and the airbase should be, directly to my 1 o'clock right now. You can see down there on the compass, the two lines are coming together. That's the goal. You need to get the two lines to get to the same plane. So there you go. The two lines are converging. So now I know for a fact that the airbase is directly in front of me, and I'm lined up with a runway. However, I'm still pretty damn far. I'm 60 miles away, as you can see in the top left corner of the compass, and I'm pretty high up. The next thing that we're going to talk about is switching from TACAN to PLS TACAN or ILS navigation. So you're going to see that I slightly overshot the runway just by a little bit. I'm a little bit to the left of it, but that's not a big deal. It's as long as it's a minor difference when you're far away, it's not the biggest deal. But right now you can see that there's new symbology that popped up on the HUD, the heads-up display. So right around the center, you're going to see a cross, a vertical line, and a horizontal line just to the right of the velocity vector. For those of you who don't know, the velocity vector is the little airplane thing that I'm circling the mouse about right now. That's the velocity vector, and then the vertical line is right there in just to the right of it, and the horizontal line, which is dashed right now, is just above it. The little circle to the right of it is the ILS steering point. So essentially that tells you where the runway is relative to you. So right now you can see that the vertical line is going straight through the velocity vector. It means that I'm right now at this point lined up with a runway almost perfectly. Now I'm a little bit to the right of it, and the goal here is to essentially follow the ILS steering point. The ILS steering point is essentially a path that guides you to the beginning point of the runway. So you want to make sure that you keep the ILS steering point in the center of your velocity vector, and that's going to take you right in. Right now, I'm ignoring the velocity vector because I need to drop down. We're at 13,000 feet. I'm sorry, 10,000 feet, Angels 10. And we need to drop down to Angels 3 or 3,000 feet. You know, it's a pretty good rule of thumb to. This is the way I like doing it. The rule, I believe, is 300 feet per thousand. I'm sorry, 300 feet per nautical mile. But I don't like doing it that way. I like to drop down to 3,000 feet from 20 plus miles out. And once I'm at 3,000 feet, I just follow the ILS steering. I'm sorry, the ILS steer point, which, as you can see, the little circle, I'm keeping it inside the velocity vector. And that's going to guide me right into the runway. And right now, you're going to see that the vertical line and the horizontal line are making a cross. That essentially means that I'm right in going for the runway. So I'm going to skip a little bit forward here, and you're going to see that you're going to start seeing some trees. The altitude is 270 feet, so I'm pretty close. You're going to start seeing trees in there. You just have to trust the instruments. At this point, I know that the runway is coming up. So as long as I stay, and you can see it right there where I mark. So that's the runway. So I'm not going to use my instruments anymore. Now I'm actually using my eyesight to eyeball the runway. And I'm going to make a smooth landing there. I believe my friend, if I remember correctly, I believe Akula had a little bit of an accident landing. I will say this is the very first time that Akula does the ILS landing on the F-16 or any plane in here really. He usually flies in, you know, VFR weather or good weather. So this is the first time he does a landing in a condition where he can't see. So you know, it was it's a pretty stressful thing to do. It looks easy when you look at somebody else doing it, but it's actually pretty stressful. So yeah.
I'm fine.
Let's see. So anyways, that's pretty much the video. You know, so basically to navigate in IMC conditions, you need to have TACAN, or you can use VOR. You can use a very high omnidirectional range VOR as well. I didn't do that this video though. Maybe that's for another video. But you can use TACAN and ILS. I think those are probably the easiest in my opinion. And ILS is really good because it allows you to essentially you know, to basically get a pinpoint approach on the runway. We were flying the F-16s. The F-16s have a pretty good ILS system. The F-18, however, also has an ILS. It's not really ILS, it's ICLS. It's designed for carriers. It does not work with land-based ILS systems. However, you can work around it. You can use the ADF or automatic directional finder, and you can essentially get pretty damn close to eyeballing the runway with the F-18. It just takes a little bit of practice. Maybe we'll do that in a future video. But essentially, when you use the F-18 to land on the carrier, it works the exact same way as you just saw me do with the F-16. It's pretty much the exact same thing. The symbology changes a little bit. Instead of having a steering or an ILS steering dot, you're going to have an arrow that essentially points to the direction of the carrier relative to you. Oh, I'm sorry, not the carrier, the runway relative to you. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that it didn't record my voice and I had to talk over the video. I know that's a little bit annoying, but I think it was good footage, so I decided to do a small edit. And with that said, I will let you guys go. Thank you all so much for watching, and God bless all of you.